What's up, everybody? It's me, Greg Miller, and this is a very special Gamescast Presents. It's a brand thing we just made up. I don't know. No, what happened is I went down to sunny Los Angeles with one Kevin Coelho and Genevieve St. She didn't do anything in this, though, to interview Andy Serkis. That's right, star of stage and screen, all about Planet of the Apes Last Frontier, out November 21st. We talk about the game, performance capture, what got him into it, and then, of course, just his insane career as well. Do we talk about why Nick Scarpino hates him? We do. And then, does Andy get mad at Nick? Maybe. Here he comes.
I'm just saying, Serkis, when you direct Galaxy of the Planet of the Apes, put Nick in it.
No, you were never saying. You were saying he was too talented.
I love him.
Ladies and gentlemen, here's this interview. Enjoy it. This isn't sponsored. I mean, Last Frontier's out. I think it looks really cool, and I think it's going to be good, so we'll see. But I don't know yet because I haven't played it. What, Nick?
They do Universe of the Apes. Let me just be a character in it, is all I'm saying.
You don't. You've insulted the man for months on the show saying he's too talented, he takes all the good roles, and now you're going to try to be on it? Just watch. Ladies and gentlemen, here's the interview. As I live and breathe, Andy Serkis.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm great. How you doing?
I'm great, man. Thanks for sitting down with us.
Thank you.
Planet of the Apes, Last Frontier. Is it good? Because as soon as you guys announced it, I thought this sounded awesome, looked awesome. Let's play a story from both perspectives, make choices, have them matter. Did it come together? Is it a good game?
I think it's a really great game.
Okay,
I hope so. I mean, yeah. I hope so. I mean, the great thing is it's taking the Apes franchise and making it more immersive.
Yeah.
It sits between the stories of Dawn and War, so it's not just like, oh, here we are making a video game of the movie that you've just seen.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a completely other universe, loads of different characters, and as you point out, you know, you can play both as humans, you can play both as apes. It's a moral maze. It puts you very much in the decision making.
Yeah.
You can play as a group. You can play. It's supported by a PlayLink as well.
Right,
so
PlayStation 4, yeah.
PlayStation 4, so you can play using your device.
Well, that's what's cool about it, right? And why I thought it was such a natural fit is the idea that, hey, let's take what people love from The Walking Dead or choice-based games like that, bring it in and then make it a party game where we all are sitting there voting on your phone. Because every time you play one of those games, you have someone next to you going, no, hit B, and then it's, oh, well, that's what I wanted.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and that's exactly what it is. I mean, we didn't want to make a first-person shooter. We wanted to make something that was a collective experience, and that thematically followed the line of the movie, which is about empathy, which is about I'm going to be going through this story. You can lead aggressively, you can lead cooperatively, you can choose to not wipe out your opposition, but try and collectively arrive at a peaceful decision. I think it very much follows the tone of the movies in that respect.
Well, I love the idea of the fact that it's a movie, right? It's an Apes movie, it's in the universe, it's how it's supposed to be, but you can replay it with a different group of people and get a completely different reaction than what you had the first time.
That's absolutely right. That's absolutely right.
So, how does this happen for you and Imaginarium? How do you guys get involved with this? Did you know you always wanted to do video games? Is that something you wanted to be a part of?
Well, yeah, I mean, interestingly, the Imaginarium really came out of my experience of working on video games. So back in 2004, I'd just come back from making King Kong with Peter Jackson.
Sure.
And I arrived home thinking, what's going to be my next move? And I was approached by a UK-based games company called Ninja Theory.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Who were starting to make a game called Heavenly Sword.
Of course.
And they asked me if I would direct the performance capture for it, because Tammy Mantegnatis, who was the CEO of the company and creative lead there, said, you know, I really feel like we've arrived at a time where performance and script and storytelling is becoming part of the video game world. And coincidentally, I'd really started to become interested in it because my kids were starting to play games.
Sure.
And I just thought, look, we spend so much time in the movie world perfecting scripts, perfecting story, pouring so much energy into, you know, making this the best storytelling experience. Why shouldn't it be the same in games? And why is there this strange attitude towards cutscenes? Because I wasn't a gamer at the time, but it's just like people had explained it to me like, no one watches cutscenes, nobody cares.
Skip,
just
then move back to the action.
You know. Yeah. And at that time, I thought, well, people probably don't watch those because they're not emotionally engaging, or they don't, or their scripts aren't very well written, or you don't really care about the characters.
Right.
And that was what, that's where it sort of came from, this desire to get involved in storytelling. So I wanted to approach it like a movie. So we rehearsed with our actors. We And this all sounds very old hat now, but in fact, it was sort of groundbreaking at the time.
Well, I mean, like, if people don't remember, Heavenly Sword, a PlayStation 3 exclusive, when it was coming out, it was tip of the sword of like, oh, the graphics are on such another level. This was as we started to see stuff from like Uncharted. It was, where are we going to push this where it can be more than just what God of War was, which was a great game and great action, but we can tell a story in it.
Right, right. So it was a really beautiful start, a really brilliantly written script.
Yeah.
And then the whole casting process, rehearsing process, it was just like you would do for a movie or even a play, actually.
Yeah.
We got really deep into character with everybody. And then when it came to shoot it, there was nowhere to shoot it in the UK. So I had to take the whole team over back to New Zealand, to Weta.
Yeah.
And so they ended up making their first video game, and we ended up, you know, having the expertise of the world's leading performance capture people at the time. So when I came back to the UK after that experience, I thought, this is nuts. You know, well, I've got to create somewhere in the UK which can be a sort of a creative hub for next generation storytelling. And, and on my sort of business plan, I wrote, I want to make all of Shakespeare's plays as video games.
Okay.
That was the idea.
Just rip off the greats. I love it. Yeah.
You know. and I said, there's got to be a way of doing it. So the Imaginarium came out of that idea, and then I worked on Enslaved, which
another Ninja Theory game,
again with Alex Garland writing this time, and he was then pushing the idea of, you know, well, you don't necessarily have to have cutscenes. Why don't you have drama and gameplay happening at the same time? And so I became fascinated with that. Anyway, then we set up the Imaginarium with a view to what our mantra was sort of next generation storytelling, and it was using performance capture in all the emerging kind of new transmedia opportunities like virtual reality and augmented reality. And video game, of course, and trying to lower the costs of performance capture so that it wasn't just the remit of big blockbuster movie fare.
Yeah.
So that's where it all came from, and then we the company started to expand, and we had this two-prong sort of attack, which was, you know, pushing the art and craft of performance capture, and then creating content as well. We then came into contact with a guy called Martin Alltimes, who worked with Disney on all their big franchise games.
Yeah.
He came to work with us, and then when I started making the Apes movies, we thought, well, what an extraordinary thing we could do if it's possible to get the rights to expand the Apes world and to tell an immersive story through, you know, a video game story.
So, with the Apes World, in your involvement there, talk to me a bit about that. As a huge fan of the original Planet of the Apes movies, right, when it all started again, James Franco, we're doing this whole thing, I'm like, okay, great, yeah, this is awesome. I didn't realize, obviously, well, I mean, it was old back then, but it was in the 2000s, you know it's going to be multiple movies, right? But I didn't sit there and think of, oh, it's an Apes World, it's an Apes franchise, it's going to be transmedia, it's going to do all these different things. When you start on that first one, do you know it's going to be that? Is that the plan forever?
No, not at all. I mean, I was sent the script. I was blown away by the script. I mean, I like everyone, probably thought, you know, really another Planet of the Apes movie.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved the
Have we not learned our lesson?
You know, and you know, the previous one wasn't, you know, so great.
Yeah.
You know, but I read the script and it was just mind blowing. It was just a beautiful piece of writing, a great character, and the arc, Caesar's arc, was just phenomenal. This orphan chimpanzee who, you know, is brought up by humans, who then, you know, discovers himself to be an ape, and then through having had the experience of empathizing with humans, is able to empathize with all different kinds of apes and lead them to freedom. Was just, you know, it was an extraordinary thing. But I didn't know it was going to go any further than that.
Okay.
And then when Matt Reeves came on board and started to evolve the second and the third film, Caesar's journey just became something else. You know, it just became this you know, this wonderful opportunity to play a character from birth to death, and go through all these extraordinary, well,
I'm kidding.
to late maturity, and then but you know, but to go through all of these huge changes, and you know, as his family, you know, as his extended family becomes a movement, and you know, he becomes the founder of this tribe, and then into this last movie, which becomes a personal journey of revenge. So I became increasingly involved with it, and it was, as I say, sort of whilst we were shooting war that we thought, I wonder if we can make expand,
Sure.
because obviously to get back to the original 1968 version, there's still a lot of storytelling storytelling potential there.
Yeah, oh yeah, totally.
Um,
Well, that's what I love so much about the idea of the game, and when it got announced was, okay, first off, you're playing in my wheelhouse of, let's tell you an awesome video game story, let's let you make the choices, let's have them matter. But it was the idea that, all right, cool, this isn't Caesar's story. These are apes who have gone up into the mountains. Now that they're starving. They need to start coming down. They start hitting into humans who are having the same problems, and what happens there. Exactly. And you get to tell a story in a world that, has had this virus break out, right, and kill most of humanity. And what does that look like? And then it also opens it up to, man, there's so many other interesting stories to tell, I bet, happening around the world, not even just the country.
Correct. Yeah, exactly.
So you can make a lot of games here.
Hope so.
Yeah. So what was the biggest challenge then for making Last Frontier?
I mean, it was really the tonally to make sure that it felt in the same wheelhouse as the movies.
Yeah.
We were working fantastically. We were able to work with Unreal and Epic, and their rendering is just so incredible, as we all know. So we were very, very happy with that. But it was just putting all those pieces together, and then finding the right writing team. Martin he formed a company called the Imaginarium, which is an offshoot, a sort of sister company in the Imaginarium.
Yeah.
We shot it in our studio. But he was very much responsible for finding the director, and obviously I was sort of keeping an eye on it as ambassador of the franchise, the movie franchise. I was sort of keeping an eye on it.
It's lucky you have so much free time that you could oversee these projects. You're just doing nothing else.
Well,
just these video games.
I don't like twiddling my thumbs.
Yeah, exactly. Well, apparently you don't like sleep either. I'd imagine you're just bouncing around a bit, doing all these different things. So then, what is your hope for the game? Like, what do you hope players get out of it?
Well, I really, as we did for the movies, that people will become emotionally engaged, and it causes debate, and there is a sort of, it continues the social commentary, zeitgeist sort of feel of, and looking at the notion of other and how you cope with other and how you choose to either make it work or sow the seeds of your own destruction.
Sure. So then you talked about it. You're the brand ambassador for Apes, right? For you, where does this journey start? Where you become literally like, oh, they're gonna make a CG character, Andy's gonna play him. Because I feel like it's gone. Like, I work with this guy. His name's Nick Scarpino, right? He's a lovely man. He does not like you. He says you're too talented, that you get too many jobs, that you just. But it's true. Hey, we're gonna do this. We're gonna make King Kong. Hey, we're gonna make Planet of the Apes. Hey, we're gonna have Gollum. Hey, it's always you. And now, on top of it, you being too talented in the CG roles, you're now coming over into the Black Panther movie, being a real. It's just. I agree with Nick to an extent. You're doing too much. I worry about your health. But where does that start? Where you become the guy for motion capture work?
Well. Gosh, I mean, look, I was really lucky, and I had an amazing time being at the sort of the beginning stages of making, at the tipping point between visual effect becoming character, which was with Gollum, and that journey was a phenomenal journey. But I thought that was coming to an end at the end of Return of the King, and I thought I'd be going back to my life as, I'd already started to want to direct, so I knew that was something that I was heading towards doing.
Sure.
But I thought I'd go back to be doing theatre and TV and film, and what an amazing experience Lord of the Rings was, and literally in the final throes of finishing Return of the King, Peter Jackson asked me to play King Kong, and I was like, I'm sorry, what? And he said, yeah, we want to use the technology to bring Kong to life. And I'm like, well, I mean, look, I understand why Gollum works. I mean, you can read what Gollum's thinking because he doesn't stop talking to himself, and you can figure out what he's. But Kong, how do we make that work? And then I realised, and it was this huge kind of epiphany moment, which was, really up until that point, I thought that was a one-off experience. Now I'm playing, I've now played a 3.5-foot ring junkie, and now I'm going to be playing a 25-foot gorilla. It's the end of typecasting, as we know it.
Yeah.
So that was for me the point where I go, there is a lot more mileage in this technology, and God, if I can play all these things, then it means that any actor can actually play anything,
sure, regardless
of and I got very impassioned by the idea philosophically that actors can regardless of their height or size, their colour, their skin, their age, their sex, they can literally embody anything.
Become anything, right? Yeah.
And that's what fired me up. And then that sort of went on into, as I say, coming back, and then the video game world opening up, and then the Imaginarium idea, that concept of creating storytelling in other transmedia arenas.
So you talk about the jump from it being visual effects to character-driven pieces.
Yeah.
That was a light bulb moment for you.
Yeah.
How long in Gollum to Kong to so on do you think it took for other actors or Hollywood to wake up to that, or were they there and I'm just being naive?
No, I think it took a long time. In the same way that the film industry had a very disparaging view of the video game world.
Sure.
It sort of took time. I remember when we were casting Heavenly Sword, it's just like, oh gosh, do you think we could get so and so? Do you think they'd come and do this? I mean, it's only a video game. It was very much that attitude. Whereas now, it's just like people are dying to be in video games because the scripts are great, the characters are really exciting. You're part of something fresh and new, and you're able to expand as an actor into another arena. So it has no problems attracting A-star, talent.
Sure.
Now, the video game world.
And you would know better than me. I feel like when I talk to the actors who excel at voice acting or come over from movies to do this, the ones that do the best at it are the ones that have either a theater background or just that drive to do that. Because there is so much of it of, I'm in the ping pong ball suit and I'm picking up this wooden rod that's now a rifle, right? Do you see that of people want that creativity again?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, absolutely. I think there is a real, film acting is fantastic and the subtlety of it, and but what people didn't realise is that you can have that subtlety and be something else.
Sure.
And be other. I mean, you look at War of the Planet of the Apes, 50% of that movie is in close-up. It's the subtlety with which now an actor's performance can be rendered, as on another physiognomy is extraordinary. So that is what is becoming appealing. And so when it came to, for instance, casting Jungle Book, the one that I'm doing, people were really up for it. People were really excited. Christian Bale was really excited about the prospect of becoming a panther, or Benedict Cumberbatch becoming a tiger, or Cate Blanchett becoming a snake. And so it's now no longer a sort of a big gamble, it's sort of what an extraordinary, exciting potential opportunity, and a real interest in trying to broaden their scope.
So where does that leave you? How do you broaden your scope when you're already so broad? What do you want to do? What do you still want? I mean, is it every project's different?
Yeah. I mean, it's always story driven. It's always kind of like, as an actor or as a director now, it's kind of, what excites me, what do I feel a real strong personal connection with. I mean, if it's a script and a part, then it's it can be small, it can be a cameo in something, or it can be, but if it's got to mean something.
Is that how you pick your roles?
Yeah,
Okay.
very much so, yeah. Because and then in terms of directing, it's like, what am I passionate enough about that I'm going to live with this for 4 years, 5 years, before I see it come to fruition. So, and I suppose there are lots of different things going on at the moment. And the next thing we're developing once Jungle Book's finished is Animal Farm, George Orwell's Animal Farm. But, looking further into the future, I kind of think I'm really looking forward to now that performance capture sits in this really interesting space with all of these different new storytelling platforms, as I say, virtual reality and augmented reality. Thinking, well, where are we going to be in 20 years' time? What is the next new wave?
That's the terrifying thought, right? As fast
collective
as this goes.
experience.
Yeah.
Or singular experience, but so we're trying to figure that out at the Imaginarium, or sort of, find a way into that.
Yeah. Where do you come down on, a lot of people talk, hi, how are you? A lot of people talk about how movies and video games and TV and internet and everything, YouTube, are competing for the same mind share, right? As someone who's got a foot in just about everything, do you see a convergence point? Do you see movies falling away and video games coming up? Video games like Last Frontier coming out and being the thing that pushed that medium forward and kind of combined it all?
I do think we've yet to discover a new collective experience. I mean, that is a combination of those things. And I don't think they're exclusive. I think they're actually they're all looking for how they can join actually and converge.
Sure.
I think that the convergence thing is true, and you know, so as I was saying, you know, we worked with the Royal Shakespeare Company on this production of The Tempest earlier in the year, and had this actor in a motion capture suit, and we did the first sort of live performance capture actor on stage projecting real-time avatars in real, you know, in a Shakespeare play. And so then that leads you on to think, well, if you can do that, then when you have mixed reality glasses on, then you can have real actors, you can have performance captured characters in the same space. You can, so I see it as a sort of a convergence of theatre, cinema, film, and an immersiveness of video game. Something's yet to happen,
right?
But a combination of all of those things, and truly, performance capture sits in the middle of it. You know?
Yeah, it's gonna be fascinating, right? I mean, I think video games are in such a different spot than they were 10 years ago.
Yeah,
and it is that people understand that they can go there, they can have a movie experience, a story experience, tied to movies, and get any range of emotions they want from it. And then as you see AR or VR enter the fray now, it becomes that thing, we're trying to use it for games, but how could you use VR to put you into a seat at a symphony in Paris or a play in New York on Broadway? How do you make any of that go? That's what I don't think we figured out yet.
No. But I think there's something to do with kind of like, certainly without being photoreal, there's a virtualized way of creating story that you can sit right in the middle of in 360, which you know, and I'm going back to the Shakespeare thing. That you know, I really want to do that. I really like to have you where you can see so you can be in the play as different characters, and you can switch characters and see the world from a different point of, you know, different.
Yeah, no, totally. That's fascinating. That's a good idea.
So that, for instance, is somewhere I'd like to take it.
Gotcha. What's the first step for that? How do you get to that point? Just find the
time.
Well,
we've kind of and the finance, but that's all it takes, isn't it? It's just the first one to get going, and then it happens. But I'd like to do it in a kind of conventional way. I mean, I'd like to rehearse it as a play, and then direct it in 360 and avatar, you know, turn the actors into avatars, and then literally direct it in 360 as a piece.
Okay. I'm telling you, you got to get some sleep at some point, though. You can't just keep running around doing all these crazy ideas. Now, there's a little boy who watches our content all the time. Yeah. He lives over in England.
Hello.
His name is Mike Biffle.
Mike.
Now, Mike makes video games every once in a while.
Amazing.
You were in one called Volume.
Really?
I don't know if you remember this game, Volume. You were in it?
I do.
Yes. Okay.
I do.
Okay. Mike isn't a little boy. He's a grown man. He's won a whole bunch of awards and stuff. Doesn't matter. But when I said I was going to interview the audience, Mike's a popular personality that comes on and visits us once in a while. And so they were like, oh, ask him about working on Volume. And Mike was like, he won't remember. He remembers, Mike.
No, I do remember working on Volume. I really loved playing those characters. It was great.
Right. Yeah. Okay. There you go. I just wanted to put that out there, Mike Biffle. Don't worry. He always tells himself he doesn't have the confidence. You know what I mean?
Mike, have the confidence.
Thank you very much. Now tell Nick Scarpino to go to hell.
Nick Scarpino, if you ever say that about me again, you're in big trouble.
There we go. And that's what I like to hear. So, how do you? This is going back. We're snapping back. Sorry, because you're so fascinating. We talked about directing, where you want to go. When you go to be one of these characters, when you go to be Caesar, when you want to go into being the Star Wars movie, and be, who are you playing again? In Star Wars?
Snoke.
And what was his backstory again?
Supremely Snoke. Well, actually, let me tell you all about it.
Please, yeah. Well, how do you get the face?
I saw what you were doing.
But how do you go to get in the headspace? Because this, I mean, not to put, I mean, it's so weird, right, for me as an outsider, that you read the script, you understand the motivations, that's acting, sure. But then to go on set, to be put into the ping pong ball suit, to work, maybe not even with the actors.
Oh no, you always work with the actors.
Okay. Yeah, run me through it then. Yeah, like.
I mean, the thing is, when you start to create a character, it starts on the page. You start to. I mean, I always approach it from I've always approached building a character from a physical point of view, because that for me, physicality, emotion centers, emotional muscle memory, psychology, voice, character, they're all obviously intertwined. They're all, you know. So you start to extrapolate from the script. It starts to, you know, you start to think about how your life kind of interacts with that character. However, wherever it is on the spectrum, whether you're reaching out for a character that's a long way away from you or something that's very close to you. Or in the journey of Caesar, for instance, I started off by looking out for inspiration, and then as each movie moved along, it came closer and closer and closer to me and my own personal journey. Then you go through this period of working with the avatar, so that you go into motion capture volume, and you have this rehearsal period where you can literally see a grey shaded or simplified sort of version of that character.
Version, right? Yeah.
And then you can start to move around, and you're looking into what is in effect a magic mirror, and you start to calibrate your movements, and you start to go, okay, well, if I slightly hunch over my shoulder here, Gollum, I think we can dial in Gollum's shoulder so that it's slightly even more curved, okay, so that I can go as far as I can go, but we can make it look like it's going even further. So you're learning to sort of puppeteer a marionette that you are literally having this relationship with in a mirror-like situation. That is part of the rehearsal process. Then, of course, you forget about all that because you encode all of that into your muscle memory, and then you know what you're doing physically. And then you're playing with your fellow actors. And then, for instance, in Apes, we had these long improvised sessions where we would do, they were kind of ape camp, basically, and we'd do long, like improvisations that went on for three to 4 hours, where some apes would be sign languaging to each other, some beginning to use ape vocalizations, some, Caesar was talking using proto-human language, and you sort of discover as this kind of huge organism how the hierarchy of the group works, for instance.
Yeah.
So all of that then plays into turning over on set. The camera turns over, and you're working with the director, and you're shooting the scene very conventionally. Yes, you're wearing a performance capture suit, but there's no difference between wearing a performance capture suit and a costume in a live action movie. That's what you wear to go to work. And you're in the moment, and you act with your fellow actors, and then that's what gets put into the cut of the movie. And Matt Reeves, for instance, lives for months and months and months with my face, not Caesar's face, in the cut, and he cuts the movie dramatically. He has to. That's what you've done. That's where the dramas come from. And then finally, the visual effects start to come in, and it's an iterative process where he'll put Caesar's face up next to mine, and their first pass of animation, and he'll go, okay, well, Caesar's really angry at this point, but there's also vulnerability in his eyes there. You can only see the anger, and they'll go back and they'll rework each shot, and sometimes there's like 120 iterations of each single shot until it's exactly replicates the emotional content of the performance that was given on the day.
Final question: what kind of physical toll does that take on you? Like, we're in the same boat here. We're not spring chickens anymore. You know what I mean?
I do.
You're over there. I got 10 years on you clearly, but I'm just saying. You're over there. You're doing this. You're all low. You're hunching your back. Like
it is physically demanding playing those kinds of parts. I mean, I have to say it was much harder playing the young Caesar, the young chimpanzee, because I was quadrupeding all over the place and had the energy of a young chimp. Whereas the great thing about Caesar growing older and growing more human-like, I was able to give him more gravitas and have him sit down, and in the next movie, there won't be a next movie, but I always imagined at one point I'd have Caesar sitting and having a cocktail.
Looking through the newspaper.
Absolutely.
The Ape News. Andy, you're a treasure. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, man. It's
a pleasure hanging out with you. Remember, everybody, Planet of the Apes, the last. I want to know, it's actually not. It's Planet of the Apes, Last Frontier. It's something about Lost that gets in there.
No,
I was like, what I'll
know.
do is I'll remember Last of Us, because that's a story-driven game, and then I totally forgot about it. So Planet of the Apes, Last Frontier, out November 21st.
Exactly.
All right. Looking forward to it on PlayLink, PlayStation, all that jazz. Until next time, it's been a pleasure to serve you. So that was me interviewing Andy Serkis. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope Planet of the Apes, Last Frontier turns out, because it seems really cool. It seems like something on my alley, as you know. Also, seems like an easy PlayStation 4 Platinum. Probably have to play it a bunch, but I'm down for that. I'm getting into the weeds here. Out the 21st of November. Hopefully it's great. If it's not, we now know where Andy Serkis lives. What's, Kevin? Sorry, no, we don't. That was a hotel. That's not where he lives full time. So I can't really help you if it's not good. But I think it looks, how could it go wrong? Just playing the Apes, making decisions, right? I don't know. I'm excited. If you liked it, like this video and or audio podcast you're listening to, send it out to your friends. Remember, the Kinda Funny Gamescast posts each and every Friday early over on patreon.com/kindafunnygames. You can get it a couple days later for free on youtube.com/kindafunnygames. No matter where you get any of our shows, thank you so much for caring about us. It's our pleasure to make content for you. No, until next time, it's been my pleasure to serve you. Don't put Nick in any of the Planet of the Apes movies, Andy. Don't cave into him.